This is We the People with Forrest Wilson.
We the people. We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route and how fast.
And now, here is Forrest Wilson.
Hello. It's good to be back on the air. It's been 4 years since we were last broadcasting on another channel. And I have quite a story to tell about the last 4 years. But I wanted to talk to you today about some things that are going on in the economy. And an article in the Weekly Standard really sets the stage for what we're going to talk about today. And this is regarding a study out of the Brookings Institution. And during the most recent 3 years of study, that was 2009 to 2011, businesses were collapsing faster than they were being formed. And this is a first. Overall, new business creation, measured as the share of all businesses less than 1 year old, declined by about half from 1978 to 2011. And I can only tell you that regardless of what the politicians say, there is very little job creation in the country right now. And, Jack, I want to know if we've got our guest tuned up, because I know she's got a tight schedule. This show, by the way, is going to expose you to some things that you probably wouldn't hear otherwise. And I know this lady is probably someone that you haven't heard before. At least I hadn't heard her, although she's got a talk show. And her name is Phyllis Schlafly. She's a lawyer, conservative political activist, and author of 20 books. She's the co-author with George Neumeier of a New York Times bestseller titled No Higher Power, Obama's War on Religious Freedom. And as soon as we can get her in, she's going to talk about something that's very near and dear to everyone's heart, and that's China overtaking America. There's an article that she wrote. There was a recent Financial Times article that sent shockwaves through the U.S. business community here last week. And it announced China will overtake the United States as the world's leading economic power this year, a title we've had held since we passed England in 1872. One of the things, as I was telling you earlier, I haven't been on the air in 4 years, so some of this board here is new to me. And did we lose her? Okay. So you'll have to just bear with me, because this is all quite new. Not like riding a bicycle. I've ridden bicycles, and I think I still can. In any event, I want to bring in Phyllis Schlafly here as soon as we can get her on the line to discuss this article that she wrote. Because, look, the government will tell you, oh, we're creating jobs. We're doing things to create jobs. And that's just simply not the case. I think, if anything, they're doing things to inhibit employment. If you've ever tried to employ people, you know what I'm talking about. Just forms and fees and taxes and on and on and on. So as soon as we can get Phyllis in, we'll bring her to you. But in any event, China is overtaking America, and they had predicted that this would happen in 2019. And apparently that's going to happen this year. One of the things I notice, I love go-karts. I'm a fan of go-karts. Those are the little things you get in with the gas-powered engines, real cheap. In any event, I went to Alibaba.com. That's China's website for all things Chinese. And I'm type in cheap go-karts, and it pops up all these different manufacturers. There's hundreds of them. And I noticed on there that all of the go-karts that I have been researching here on Amazon and various other domestic websites, oh, there they are, made in China. Not a single go-kart that I had considered was actually made here. So we don't make go-karts anymore, apparently. Now, there may be some assembled here. I'm just not aware of it based on that little audit of Alibaba.com. And I'm getting the thumbs up. Apparently, we've got Phyllis Schlafly. She's a lawyer, again, conservative political activist, and the author of 20 books. And she has released this article, China Overtaking America. Phyllis, welcome to The Resistance.
Well, thank you very much. This is Phyllis Schlafly.
And what did you have in mind when you wrote this article? What's the basis of it?
Well, it was the news. It was all over the news, front-page news in this country, that China was becoming the number one economic power in the world, and that it was the first time that had happened for the United States. We had been the superior top dog since 1872, when we took over that title from the British. And this was a shock to most people, and because we think we're exceptional and the best, and we ought to be. And actually, I think we really are. But in any event, China is quite a threat. And the big thing that I think we should pay attention to is the fact that all this money that they're getting from selling all these goods that you know you can buy in American stores, they're putting into their military. So they're building as much in their military as Obama is taking away from our own military.
Well, it's kind of like what's happened to the Middle East. I mean, we've spent trillions of dollars purchasing their hydrocarbons, and I was just mentioning I had been looking for a go-kart. And I had looked at various domestic websites, hoping to buy one of these little, gasoline-powered things you get in. And so I had quite a list. I'd basically seen every go-kart there was. And then I went to Alibaba.com. That's the Chinese Google, if you will, or one of the big websites that is part of the Chinese economy. And I Googled Alibaba cheap go-karts. And what came up was basically every go-kart that I had researched that I thought, maybe it was made here, maybe not. Almost without exception, every go-kart that I had considered was manufactured in China. We don't make go-karts, Phyllis.
Well, that's what happened. The manufacturers have shipped all their plants to China, where they can get cheap labor. And I just think it's immoral, unnecessary, and absolutely wrong to force our guys to compete with the cheap labor in Asia, where they may pay them $1 or $2 an hour.
So that would, according to your article, that would indicate that the size of the Chinese economy is going to be greater than 16 to 17 trillion by this year. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I'm not so good with the exact figures on that, but they certainly are growing at a rapid rate, and we are borrowing from them and making this debt and then buying their products. And, every time we sign one of these trade agreements, we are promised it's going to create jobs in America, but it doesn't. These trade agreements create jobs in foreign countries because the only thing they import is our jobs.
Well, does the regulatory environment have anything to do with this?
Well, we have a tight regulatory environment. China doesn't have any tight regulatory environment. They've sold us all kinds of shoddy merchandise, and a lot dangerous. They've sent us some poisonous foods. They won't. Their idea of inspection. We have inspection of plants that do things like prescription drugs and certain foods and so forth. And in China, inspection, the first place, you have to tell them when you're coming so they get ready for you. And the second thing is you have to use their people as interpreters.
Wow.
And the third thing is they only come about 1/4 as often as they inspect any American plants. So it's a racket.
And you believe that the free trade agreements that we have with China are hurting the American economy?
Absolutely, hurting us because in the phrase of the whole song, it takes two to tango, and we comply by the rules, but they don't.
Right.
And then the other thing is when you as a manufacturer decide to locate your plant in China and make use of the cheap labor. The Chinese, and they're run by the communists, the Communist Chinese force you to give them all of your patents and your secret processes for building whatever it is you're building, and even a share of ownership in the plant.
So they're basically stealing our ideas, our manufacturing methods, all of those things.
All of the above, yes.
Well, I think one of the things that is hurting us here, if you've ever tried to employ people, there is a myriad of federal regulations that you have to comply with, some of them through the Internal Revenue Service, and it's just daunting to employ people. I know I've been involved in business now for 20 years or so, and I've helped businesses. I've operated my own business, and I'm currently helping another business. And one of the most difficult things that we do is employ people. It's just unbelievable the amount of taxation, and outside of Obamacare and health insurance, there's all sorts of other mandated insurances like workers' comp that you have to carry, and on and on and on. I mean, there's no end to it. It's no wonder that we don't make go-karts here anymore.
Well, that's right, and the benefits that are given to American employees are just really tremendous. But they don't give those benefits. And often you have to sleep in the company dormitory. And
yes.
You can't afford to go have a house of your own.
Well, to your article's point, there was another study, I was just mentioning it earlier, out of the Brookings Institution about the decline of businesses and the collapse faster than they're being formed first over the past 2009 to 2011 time period. Overall, new business creation has declined from 1978 to 2011. Are you familiar with that? I mean, it's. I think we all sense it. We can tell that there's something amiss in the economy.
Yeah, I don't know the details of it, but I know that whatever it is, they are not playing by the rules, and they are cheating us coming and going. And I don't think we ought to put up with that. And you don't hear anybody talking against it.
No.
You know, when they bring in these treaties, like the one with Korea that called Chorus that was passed a couple of years ago, and of course the earlier one was NAFTA, and now they're trying to bring another one in to expand to a whole lot of other countries, and they promise it's going to increase all these jobs. And our record is that every one of these treaties resulted in a loss of American jobs because we lost our manufacturing ability to manufacture goods, and the other countries gained all kinds of jobs, thousands, tens of thousands of new jobs.
Well, we did gain some pretty cheap products. There isn't a single toy in my kid's toy closet that wasn't made in China. I mean, literally every toy that we've purchased is made in China.
That's right, but the question is the man of the house who was providing and supporting his family has lost his good job, and he's had to take a minimum wage job like at Starbucks and send his wife out to try to find another minimum wage job.
Well, what do you think?
It's a bad trade.
Is the solution to this less regulation on the American economy and the American business owner?
Well, that could be one part of it, but that's not a major part. Most people like a lot of the benefits, the regulations that make it a safe place to work, that guarantee certain vacations and so forth. All kinds of those regulations have been helpful to most workers. The main thing is the job, and that is what we're losing. I mean, Alexander knew the importance of building up manufacturing. That was his plan for the United States. And we had a tariff system that kept other countries from coming in and taking away our manufacturing for about a century under the Alexander Hamilton policy. And then this notion of free trade, well, it's free for them, but it's not free for us.
No, and I think the regulation feeds into it. I was reading something in the American Spectator about 20 years of nonstop regulation. Listen to this, Phyllis. 81,883 new regulations hitting the books during the past 20 years. That's a new regulation every 2 hours and 9 minutes, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year for 20 years. Now, this has to have an impact on businesses and the American worker. I mean, literally, I agree. We need some level of regulation. But this has grown so large that they estimate that complying with it costs $1.8 trillion, trillion with a T, per year, or roughly half the size of the federal budget. And that's larger than Canada's entire economy. I think that some of this is driven by our federal government and the nonstop regulation. Would you agree?
Yes, and just think of the employees you have to have who are going to monitor this and make sure you're not committing some crime by avoiding some regulation. I mean, the expense of it is tremendous.
It is. I actually work in as a consultant for a company, and again, one of the most difficult things that we do is employ people. The actual business that they're in is it's oil and gas, so you can imagine the regulatory environment of oil and gas. It's state, not federal. Mm-hmm. But it is very difficult to employ oil field workers with all of the mandated insurances. I'm not talking about health insurance. I'm talking about workers' comp and the various other insurances that you have to have. They're mandated in order to operate the oil and gas leases, and these are leased through a particular state.
Yeah, well, it's a dangerous occupation.
Absolutely.
And you have to have regulations, and we want it to be as safe as possible, and for the guys who are working on that. And it's high risk, danger of accident, danger of getting killed, and you've got to have money to cover that. And
well, Phyllis, I want to keep you through here. I've got to take a short break, but I'd like for you to stay through because I want to talk to you about Mother's Day, and that is tomorrow. And if you've got a few minutes, I've just got one question for you when we come back.
Okay,
Could you stay
I'll
for
be
a
here.
few? Excellent. Thank you, Phyllis.
Let's return to We the People with Forrest Wilson. Once again, here's Forrest.
And welcome back, Forrest Wilson, AM 600, The Answer. We've got Phyllis Schlafly, author of 20 books, an attorney, a conservative activist, well-known. Phyllis, thank you for holding over.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask you something as a conservative activist. What is your take on this quote-unquote war on women?
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's just another publicity stunt by the feminists. And you have to realize the feminists, they are trying to establish the proposition that men are not necessary. They've been very much against marriage. When they talk about liberation, they mean liberation from home, husband, family, and children. And if you read their literature, you would find they're always yapping about being subservient to the patriarchy. Now, the truth is that American women are the most fortunate class of people who ever lived on the face of the earth. And stop complaining.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I want to. Are you familiar with Tina Brown?
I don't think so.
Tina Brown's I guess she was the editor of Vanity Fair. She's had a stellar career in journalism, and she's now one of the editors of the Daily Beast. And I happened to be looking at that website, and I found a clip of her discussing the resurgence or reemergence of Monica Lewinsky. And I wanted to play that clip real quick, get your comment on it, and then we'll see you next time. How does that sound?
Okay. And meanwhile, you can go on my website, eagleforum.org.
eagleforum.org. Excellent. Okay, Jack, go ahead and play that.
Just put it all out there. That's what we live with now every day. And I was thinking, as I looked at this horrendous cast, when I was thinking about those times, the Linda Tripps and the Luciana.
Oh, remember all that?
And all of these kind of grotesques, is the truth. We have another one every day, whether it's, V. Stiviano or Sydney Leathers. I mean, these characters are now part of our sort of the stream of garbage that just sort of flows through our heads.
The point of that clip, Phyllis, she was talking about the Vanity Fair article with Monica Lewinsky and how Monica Lewinsky changed the media. But if you notice in that clip, she's talking about all of the women and none of the men. She mentioned Sydney Leathers and, of course, Monica Lewinsky and the person who brought all the dirt out, Linda Tripp. But she doesn't mention Bill Clinton or Anthony Weiner. And I just, now this is a big feminist, this Tina Brown. And this is how they're perpetrating a war on women, and yet at the same time they're saying, well, there's a war on women.
Well, the whole idea of war on women is simply a fabrication. It doesn't exist in the United States now. There are other countries where you can say there is a war on women, but not the United States. Get over it. If you wake up in the morning thinking you're oppressed and second class, and you're not going to amount to anything. You ought to wake up in the morning with a positive attitude toward life. And fortunate that we live in the greatest country in the world.
Yes, God help America. Well, Phyllis, I want to thank you again for joining us today. And one more time, give us your website so people can look you up.
My wonderful website that has so much information is eagleforum.org. eagleforum.org. And you can get my columns, my Phyllis Schlafly report, my radio commentaries, all kinds of goodies.
Excellent. The great Phyllis Schlafly here on AM 600, The Answer. Forrest Wilson, The Resistance. I hope you'll stay tuned.